Hey fellow tankers, Mobius here with another World of Tanks console video, and today we're taking a brief scoot around Overlord, the new map that just came out with update 3.4. Now, if you haven't seen Jack the Ripper's What You Need to Know About Overlord video, I highly recommend taking a peek at it. Very worthwhile taking a look at. Good little video, basically gets the Mobius Y stamp of approval. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it to the description, or I'll link the video in the description below. So I've got my clanmate A2 to Kizzle on the other side there. He's just going to be a body so that I can actually host this training room. So here on Overlord, from watching Jack the Ripper's video, there's a couple main choke points to worry about. Most of the battle winds up being here in this area, from what I understand, on the west side of the map. That's where most of the heavy tanks that don't have great gun depression tend to go. And then the rest of the battle tends to be fought out over on in these parts of the map here, in these kind of hilly areas. That's where you want to go if you have tanks with decent gun depression, but also your medium tanks in particular are good for there. Of course, heavy tanks with good gun depression, like say any US or British heavy tanks, or maybe even Japanese heavy tanks, they can hang out over there as well, as that area is much more hilly compared to this side of the map. So as you can see in these parts that I highlighted right off the bat, saying this is where heavy tanks wind up going, you can see why. It's a lot flatter. There's plenty of spots where you can set up and either set up for a side scrape or go moderately hull down with either these bunkers or these rocks to protect you, and allowing you to either side scrape or poke out with your strong turret armor and just kind of pop off your shots. Very major brawl happens in this area here, and as you can see on the north side of the map, it's a similar thing. You've got another nice big bunker on this side of the map as well, and there's this little collection of rocks on this side of the map as well where you can set up for brawling engagement. So if you find yourself in a heavy tank, such as more like a German or even a Chinese heavy tank, you kind of want to play on this side of the map here. This area is where a lot of brawling, a lot of infighting tends to happen. So let's just work our way further east along the map. This corridor here tends to be where some medium tanks tend to often go on the PC version, from what I understand. There's also light tanks that often go up this route as well. And you can see why it's important that you need a decent amount of gun depression, as there's a lot of ridges that you need to poke over. Right here is a ridge to poke over and exchange peekaboo shots with, and it's going to be the same story on the other side here. And if you're poking up in this part of the map as well, looking over into this middle area, you're going to want some gun depression so that you can shoot at whatever tanks you have in the middle of this little hilly area here. This specific area right here, you will possibly find some light tanks who are trying to be super cheeky. Moving up in here. These ridges are extremely steep, so it's very difficult even for tanks with good gun depression to get up high enough so that they can get shots on enemy tanks. But a light tank that is bold enough will very likely wind up pulling up in here and settling in very comfortably. If they're paying attention enough, they can watch for any tanks trying to come up and trying to shoot at them, so they can find what minimal cover there is in this area. It's a very exposed area, very easy to get caught out in the open, but as I said, the ridge on the north and the south of that part is where a lot of infighting is going to happen. We've got another section over here where... Ooh, I can't ping it anymore. We've got another section right over here down this road where heavy tanks with decent or good gun depression will wind up going. As you can see, it'll be a nice area for tanks with decent gun depression, especially medium tanks. Lots of room to flank around, work on these side shots. If somebody's on this corner here, you can get side shots into them if they're pushing up a little bit too far, especially if a heavy tank is trying to make a move down that way. And over on this side, of course, a tank with decent gun depression, like a T-29, could get pretty hull down by this road area, peeking over and getting its shots off and protecting itself with its really good turret armor. So that tends to be where most of the infighting happens, but the east side of the map here is where a lot of mobile mediums will go. You'll see quite a few light tanks hanging out over here. There'll be a couple heavy tanks over here if they're not brawling it out in the E3, F3, E4, F4 kind of section. If they're not hanging out over here, they'll be over there somewhere. Now, for tank destroyers, there's plenty of locations where the tank destroyers can hang out. My understanding is that one of them is kind of way back here. in this kind of area. From here, there are some shots in the middle area. You've mostly got them on the lanes on the far right-hand side. Let's see if I can find the right spot. That street that goes up through the middle, which I believe is right there. You have some pretty good shots up into that area. Not a lot of physical hard cover in this area. You can dip down in your TD if you do get spotted and find yourself some cover. But there are some trees to protect yourself as well. And then the other part of the map where TDs tend to hang out is just over in here. And this is both on the north and the south side of the map. We'll take a look at the north side of the map where the TDs supposedly hang out in just a minute here. So on the other side of the map where the TDs like to hang out, they can also get good shots into the heavy tank area over here on this side. They tend to come up onto this outcropping that's overlooking the beach right up here. There's another small crest where if you get spotted in your TD way in the back here, or this rock, you can just dip down, find yourself some cover before you come up unspotted again, lining up to take a shot. As you can see, there's very good shots into that middle area where those bunkers are. That's the bunker on the north side that I just shot at. So very easy to line up shots in your TDs from here, and it's not even 500 meters away, so they'll be within the render range. You'll be able to see any tanks that are spotted in that area very easily. And of course, it'll be the same on the north side of the map. We'll just scoot over there really quick and take a good look at it from the north side of the map for those TD locations. So as you can see, a very large portion of the map, namely from the 6th line over, seems to be a very good area for your more mobile medium tanks and your light tanks, but also some fairly mobile heavy tanks. Some of the more popular heavy tanks, like the US heavy tanks, and even something like a Chieftain, for example, they'll probably be very popular over there. Even Japanese heavy tanks could wind up hanging out over there because the Japanese tanks also have pretty dang good gun depression to work those ridge lines while engaging on that side of the map there. Tanks like E-75s and like you'll probably find over here simply because they have lower gun depression values, but they also sport really good turret armor, really good side armor. You'll probably see things like IS-8s, STIs, the KV heavy tanks, the KV series like KV-1s and all that jazz. You'll probably find those over there, whereas things like M6s and T-29s will be more on that side of the map. So as you can see, this side of the map here, you got the same kind of locations for TD sniping zones. There's lots of cover on this side of the map. Again, you got all sorts of rock outcroppings that you can pull back behind if you get spotted, but apart from that, there's really easy shots around that rock in the very middle, on either side of the rock over there. This rock that I'm going to shoot at right now, that rock where the round just flew past, that's actually on the south side of the map. So as you can see, you got good shots on either side of that rock over there. And even from this side, if you're in your TD, you could come out over on this side of the bunker over here and look for shots into this part of the map on the other side where the other main engagement is probably happening. If there's any tanks that are peeking up in that middle area there, you could work that area, or even tanks that are peeking up in this area over here. Oops, sorry, I didn't quite ping that correctly. More kind of over in this area. You could probably get line-up shots on them as well if they're playing this high ground up over here. Oop. Okay, that house is destructible. And that one isn't. Alright, lessons learned. Okay, look at that. See, that house is destructible, and that one isn't, and then this one isn't either. There you go. Advanced tactics with Mobius Y for World of Tanks console. Knowing which destructible house can be the difference between winning or losing the game. Another nice region for the TDs to go on the north side of the map. Right up here in this area. It's a little more hilly, but there's quite a bit of tree cover, and you can use the ridges to hide behind if you find yourself getting spotted. Again, you have very easy shots down across this road area over here. And anybody poking the ridges either to the right side there, up in the middle, or over on the left side, you have some pretty good shots over there with your TDs if you're playing that class on the Overlord map. And of course, artillery will probably be hiding somewhere, you know, more in this area over here on this side of the map, and same with on the other side, probably kind of over here somewhere, or over here where there was lots of hard cover with the houses and whatnot, so that the artillery can hide and you know, lob its pumpkins chuck its pumpkins from the sky. Now, one area I haven't really discussed because it's not that vital to the course of the engagement, is my understanding. But also, just from looking at the map, you can tell it's not a key area of the map. This beach area, while it looks like it might be a good idea for a tank to come down here or a big platoon to come down here and try a big flanking maneuver, it's really not as vital an area on the map because, simply put, when tanks come up into this area, if there is a massive attrition battle going on here, just like there should be on the cliff right above, there should be a big brawl going on directly above here, but if that instead happens in this area down here, and you get stuck in a big attrition battle where nothing happens for, 10 minutes into the game, but you lose this entire east side of the map, the other team manages to push through, they are able to come up behind you and shoot you in the back. They're able to come right above you and try and drop down on top of you if they so choose. Or if they have enough gun depression, they can simply sit up there and shoot downwards onto the top part of your tank. All of which is very bad. So not a heck of a lot of tanks tend to really go down here. You'll probably see still one or two maybe every game, but you still do need to have somebody go down in this area. But something more like a very frontally armored tank destroyer kind of thing, holding this choke point here, like, for example, an E3 or even an AT series of British tank destroyer lumbering down into this area, and then you can park your tank destroyer kind of up here on this section. More so on this part of the map, and then you pretty much have shots into every single lane down on the beach for any tank that's trying to approach down in this beach area. You could put your tank destroyer, say you're in an AT2, so you can put your tank destroyer right here. Right from here, you've got shots to the top of that ridge. You've got shots down to the side of that ridge, and you've got shots further down the beach if somebody tries to come down that beach. Very easy for you to get your gun, your forward-facing gun, on any of those locations. And of course, it's a heck of a lot easier for a TD, a frontally facing TD, to do it from the very back here as well, to just hold this area. Maybe one tank in a more kind of forward position, for example, on this ridge line back there, to kind of spot for the TD, or possibly a light tank do a quick scoot down to the beach and see if there's any enemy tanks coming in this direction really early on, to kind of give away any potential flanking maneuvers from a really quick medium, say an A-43's trying to careen down this beach and flank up and around behind the big brawl going up here. Well, a quick scoot down here by a light tank or even another quick medium would spot that right away. But also a TD positioned in one of those locations that I gave at the bottom of one of these ramps, especially if they're backed up by another heavy tank playing a more forward location, for example on this rock here that I'm passing right now, or even on this little crest right here. So essentially they're in a more of a holding pattern in this area. If you do wind up going down in this part of the map, you're really not that vital to the battle, unfortunately. That's just the truth of it. You want to try and stay up on top of this cliff wall here, get your gun in the fight, and get in the main battle that's going to be going on over here, and over here in the middle of the map, and over here in this part of the map as well. That's where all the fighting is really going to be going on. I want to make sure you're being useful on this map by doing that as such, because at the bottom of that beach there, if your team controls this beach, all that you really get out of that is a really flat area for the most part. And there's no access to the flags because you have to climb these ridges, and then the enemy team can simply lock you down in these corridors, preventing you from getting up to their flag, and very easily flank you from behind, either in that area or simply coming up over top of the cliff to shoot downwards on top of you. So, in case it wasn't obvious, the beach part of the map is just not as big of a deal as the eastern portions of the map, because simply put, the beach takes up the 1 and 2 line of the map. The rest of the map is the 3 through 0 line, so 70% of the map is up above the beach. If you control 70% of the map, there's a 70% more likely chance that you're going to win the game. Alright, so let's just hop off this cliff. There's one more map I want to go check out, and it is Ensk. I believe it's just regular Ensk. We'll go take a quick look at that, as apparently there have been changes to that map as well. I'm just going to confirm which version of Ensk it is, and we'll be right back taking a look at Ensk. Alright, fellow tankers, we're back in the training room, and the map is in fact Ensk War. Just looking at the overhead, I can see there's a lot less black splotches all over the place. So there's been definite changes to Ensk War. It looks a lot more open without all those rubble piles in the overhead. And we'll definitely take a look at that in a second. I've got Kizzle on the other side once again, helping me out. Thanks very much, Kizzle. Really appreciate it, doing this for me. Poor guy's kind of been a little bored for the last 15-20 minutes now. But anyways, so we'll take a quick look around Ensk War here. Not going to spend as much time as on the Overlord map. And then that'll be it for this video. So let's just take a look over it this way. I was told that the train cars were actually removed from the war variant on Ensk, so let's just go ahead and take a look. I know that I had a lot of fun looking at train car and going pew! And knocking out a good half of the cover for somebody that they were hiding behind. Okay, there's definitely a lot less train cars on this side of the map. As you can see, there is less than half as many train cars here. There isn't a big long line of trains anymore. Just ruined cars kind of lying all over the place. So that's really good. It'll allow for a little bit better flow on this part of the map because when tanks were trying to come through a flank here on the field side of the map, they would get caught up in these parts there because there were so many rubble piles and train cars all over the place. It really just bogged up this whole area of the map. It made things very difficult in terms of moving around. There's clearly a lot less rubble piles over here in the field as well because I can actually move around now. There were at least 3 rubble piles over here in this area where I'm pointing right now. This one definitely stayed, as you can see. Happily running into it because I don't know how to drive. But I recall there being a rubble pile sitting right about here as well, which would kind of impede mobility in this area. And then there was another rubble pile kind of over there by that ruined building, I think, or it was more over on this side. I think it was over on this side by these pipes. If I recall right. My memory is usually pretty good. There might have been 2 rubble piles I'm talking about. So it looks like the field is just opened up quite a bit more. A little bit more cover with a couple rubble piles that were moved. I think that one has moved. That one that I just shot at right there. I don't recall that being there previously. Not off the top of my head, but I'll be honest, I didn't play in the field very much on Ensk. As you can see on this side of the map as well, there's a lot of the train cars that are gone, so it'll be much easier getting some movement across these train tracks for sure. Curious if the standard version of Ensk has altered this way as well, but I'm sure you guys will find that out on your own just by playing the game. I haven't had the chance to check that out yet, but I don't want this video to be ridiculously long, so we're just going to take a look at Ensk War. So the train car area, much improved, a lot more options for skirting around. Less cover, obviously, but you got to think a lot more strategically about what you're doing over there. You can't simply have your heavy tank like your E75 or your IS simply strut down those train tracks. Tra-la-la-la-la, nobody can hurt me because I'm surrounded by train cars and rubble piles everywhere. And the next thing you know, you have flanked behind the entire enemy team. This middle area, this courtyard area, is a lot more open, which is great. This place was just an absolute nightmare to fight around because there were so many piles of rubble all over the place, and they were more of a hindrance than anything else. These 2 bits of barbed wire here, for example, there was a rubble pile on this side of the building, and there was a rubble pile right over there where I just shot at too. So it was just a nightmare navigating this area of the map in this little courtyard right here in the middle. Let's go take a look down the one line, very popular area of the map, and then we'll just quickly scoot into all of these, in between all these buildings, and take a look in there really quick. As you can see, the one line, there's practically no piles of rubble here anymore. It was extremely easy to get in a position here, especially from the north, because there was a lot of rubble piles on the north side there. So there was lots of spots for cover from that end. Not so much from the south side. There were a couple of spots, but it was a lot easier to close the distance from the north side of the map. So I'm kind of glad they got rid of all that. It makes the one line kind of less viable for tanks that are trying to get in heavy tanks that are trying to find good side scraping spots. Much more open over on this side of the map, as you can see here. Let's dip into these buildings. I seem to recall movement being severely hindered in this part of the map. Oh my gosh, I am lagging ferociously. I have lost control of my tank. Oh, there we go. And I still can't control my tank. Oh, well, this has been an interesting development. Can I control my tank now? I think I can. Alright, there we go. Okay, so... wow, I went all over the place there. So there's just a lot more freedom of movement on Ensk War. It still looks like a war map. There's just so much less crap in the way, which is great. That was my biggest complaint about Ensk War. I love Ensk. I despised Ensk War because it used to be such a hindrance to travel around the map, is how I simply put it. But it just looks like it's a lot more open now. It's much more easier to move around. There's obviously less specific chokehold points where you can just, find a spot for cover and hide there and go nice and haul down. Because that happened just all the time. People would just, every corner there's a piece of cover where somebody can just go nice and haul down or side scrape around. So it doesn't look like that's going to be the case anymore. There's going to be more freedom of movement, making Ensk War a much more viable map for things like light tanks, those nimble little buggers that got to be able to flit around the map. But anyways, that's going to be it for this video. I hope it was helpful, and if you enjoyed it, feel free to let me know down in the comments if there's any other maps you would like to see me drive around on. Old maps, new maps, you name it. I got a lot in this useless brain of mine that I can give in terms of map strategies and whatnot. But I hope this has been helpful, taking a look at Overlord and looking at the changes to Ensk War. This has been Mobius Y. Thanks very much for watching. Hope to see you on the battlefield or in the next video. And as always, happy tanking.